Go ahead and get started. It looks like we still have a few more people coming on. We usually sometimes have a late arriving crowd. I could tell a joke or two, but I would miss the punchline. I see my friend John Miller on here. We were on a Zoom earlier today. But again, welcome everybody to our April 15th TATT chat. I'm thankful that today is not tax day because I'm always the late guy trying to get his stuff to his accountant. So it just gave me a 30-day reprieve. So I'll probably be May 4th. Nah, I can't do it that late, but I'll be late. But it's a beautiful day, as Dean talked about, and spring's in the air. And we have a good program today. I always look forward to hearing Scott talk about the airport. We got a couple of county updates. But before we get into that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Dean because he has a couple of poll questions he wants to throw out there. Dean?
Yes, thank you, Terrence, and good afternoon again to everybody. We are appreciative of having Scott as our speaker, and we thought, to help kind of kick off his presentation, we would ask you to answer a couple questions kind of about your mentality as it relates to traveling by air. So you can see I've put it out. The first question is, have you traveled by air over the last 3 months? And then we know we'll get Lisa has done so. And then the second one, do you plan to travel by air over the next 3 months? I'll take a second to go ahead and give your answers. We will tally those up here. Everybody's very quick on the draw today, which is great. So we got, it looks like just a couple more people to click in there, and then we can see our results. And then Scott, we can talk about that. So we've got 27 of 29. I'm going to assume that's everybody. So let me share the results. So Scott, it looks like, so in the last 3 months, 30% or 8 out of 27 had traveled by air, which is actually high. Good news for GSP. Over the next 3 months, 63% are going to be traveling by air. So I know you're going to share the results from GSP and the national averages. But I thought this might be interesting and helpful to you. Is tell us how this compares with what you are seeing there at the airport. So with that, I will turn it over to Scott. You can share your screen and we can go from there. So again, Scott, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide a update on GSP. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's one of your emails. So
oh, well, that's not good. Hold on here.
Now it's a press release. So you probably got, there it is. Now
we go. Nobody read that press release, did they? We don't want that getting out early. So there we go. Can you see it now?
Yep. You are good now.
Very good. Thank you. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on GSP. We've been working hard to make sure that the airport's safe and is ready for travel whenever folks are comfortable and ready to come back and start traveling again, both domestically as well as internationally. So we just wanted to start off and provide an airport traffic overview. So GSP currently has 21 nonstop destinations throughout the United States. And that's actually the most that we've ever had. So even despite the pandemic, we were at 19 prior to the pandemic. We are now at 21 nonstop destinations. 2 of those are currently do have suspended service. That's Newark and Newark LaGuardia. And that's just because of the state of things up there in the Northeast, but we fully intend to have those come back. And you can see we have 6 airlines currently serving the market. Allegiant, American, Delta, Silver, Southwest, United. And all of those are returning service back to GSP. We just had several new cities start with us, and I'm going to talk about those. And we had several of our former cities that were suspended for a period of time over the pandemic come back. Those include Washington, D.C. Americans now flying back there with daily service, as well as down to Miami. And they continue to make investments in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I'll talk about that a little bit more too. United's brought back their nonstop Denver service. So that's the furthest flight that we have. It's about a 3-hour, 20-minute flight to and from Denver. That just started back about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So if you're looking to travel, we do have the ability to get you there from point A to point B. So just talking about new passenger service. So even despite the pandemic, Southwest Airlines continues to invest in our market. We just celebrated their 10-year anniversary here last month. So they've actually started in March of 2011. But you can see here they started daily Houston service back in November. So we were very excited about that. And then we also welcomed Silver Airways. Silver Airways predominantly has been down in Florida and the Caribbean, but they started 3 new nonstop cities out of GSP back on March 18th, Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville. So if you're looking to go to the Sunshine State, they can get you down there. They're currently operating those flights twice weekly for each of those markets. Based on the bookings so far and their advanced bookings through summer, we expect them to provide additional flights per week for each of those markets. And we're also already having some ongoing discussions with them about expanding beyond those 3 markets. So very exciting. And we're really happy to have them in the market. They're a great airline. So this is our air service and our market share. So you can see all those nonstop cities and daily departures on the left-hand side there. And then you can see airline market share by seats. So American Airlines is our largest airline with 32% of the seats in the market, followed by Delta with 30%, and then Southwest with 18, United 13, and Allegiant with 7. And this changes a little bit. Typically, Delta and American are always tied real close for that number 1, number 2 position. Silver will be on here eventually. We're just now getting their stats from when they started on March 18th. So we'll be adding them to this pie chart once we know how they performed last month and how many folks took advantage of their new service. And then just looking at new and increased service, Dallas-Fort Worth, American had went from 2 flights to 3 daily flights here approximately 2 weeks ago. They're going to be taking that now to 4 daily flights beginning on May 6th. So if you're going out to the Lone Star State, highly encourage you to take a look at both Southwest Airlines providing that Houston hobby service, as well as American Airlines going to Dallas-Fort Worth. So when we look at passenger enplanements, you can see here, this is the last 3 years, calendar year 19, 20, and 21. And you can see for calendar year 19, which is the blue bars, we were doing extremely well. And we had set an all-time record in 2019, 2.61 million total passengers flew out of GSP, the most that since the airport opened its doors back on October 15th of 1962. And then you can see we started calendar year 2020 off extremely well. January, we were up 5.9% over the previous year. And then February was up 7.8%. And then the pandemic hit. And you can see we were down for the month of March of 2020, we were down 42.5%. And then we just bottomed out in April of 2020. You see, we were down roughly 96%. We only had 4% of the traffic that month that we had seen in April of 2019. But you can see here with the green bars, things are slowly starting to come back. So we're very encouraged. For March 2020, we were only down approximately 49% from where we were in 2019. So we're benchmarking against 2019 since that was our last good year, I'm going to say, of passenger traffic, just to see how we're recovering. And this is our passenger enplanements. So we just doing a forecast of budget. So you can see we were actually doing better than we had forecasted for July through December of 2020. January and February are typically tough months for any airport across the country. Those are typically the slowest months of the year for travel. So you can see we were down, but you can see things started to come back in March, and we're very encouraged by the initial numbers that we're seeing for April of this year. Spring break has done extremely well for us. Lots of folks traveling. The airport, is busy and vibrant, and we can see a lot of folks in our restaurants, folks down in baggage claim waiting for their bags. So we were hoping to see that that orange line go above that trend line, or the budgeted blue line that we have once we get the final results in for this month, and then continue to see that to go up above, hopefully above what we had budgeted for in the current fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. Even with that, so again, you can see the 2019, these are our enplanements. And an enplanement is an individual getting on an airplane. Then you have deplanements, that gives you your total passenger numbers for a year. But you can see here, it's going to take a little while, at least based on our forecast, for us to really fully recover back to 2019 levels. So we don't expect that to occur until 2024. And then if the pandemic wouldn't have occurred, just looking at what our growth would have been if we would have continued with our 2019 levels and continued to build off of those, we think it's going to be approximately 2026 before we get to where we would have been without the pandemic. So we have a few more years on that road to recovery. We encourage folks, again, whenever you're comfortable, please come back. We'd love for you to take a trip out of GSP. That certainly helps with the recovery and getting the airport back on its feet, from a passenger perspective. And then this is just a chart that staff had put together for another meeting that we had with our Air Service Task Force. And this is a great chart. So this takes a look at scheduled airline seats this April versus April of 2019. And you can see where airlines are putting their investment, because an airplane's a movable asset. You can move it around. You can put it, in any city, really typically anywhere in the world, or anywhere that the aircraft has arranged to fly to. And you can see where the airlines are making most of their investments. Over here on the left-hand side, you see Sarasota, Key West, Colorado Springs, St. Thomas, Panama City, Destin. So if you have beaches or mountains, outdoor activities, they're putting a lot of seat capacity into those markets. You can see GSP is about middle of the road. So we have about 2/3 of our seat capacity for April of 2021 that we had in April of 2019. That actually improves to about 80% in the month of May. So we're very encouraged by that. So if we don't have the seats, then it's hard to fill them. But since the seats are coming back, we hope that folks will come back and start flying. And if we look on the right-hand side, these are some of the cities that they've pulled seat capacity out of. And you can see San Francisco, a lot of New York cities, California and New York, primarily over here on the right-hand side. And that's really just based on the lockdown and the restrictions that have been put in place by those state governments that have hampered travel in and out of there. Hopefully, as those restrictions ease up, they'll be able to get that seat capacity back. But, airports are always competing for additional seats. So again, that movable asset can be moved anywhere across the country. And airlines have been doing that, trying to match seat capacity to actual demand. And this is just another chart that kind of confirms that. This was booking data from Expedia. And so they were just looking at the first quarter of 2021, what destinations have the best recovery based on booking trends. And you can see communities with beaches and mountains are doing better than the ones that don't. And you can see Miami there, #1 for all 3 months. And then you got Phoenix and Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Charleston, Tampa, Savannah, West Palm Beach, Fort Myers, Sarasota. So Florida's doing extremely well in comparison to some other parts of the country. And typically, GSP has been historically viewed as a business market. We have a lot of great things to offer the rest of the country and for travelers coming in from other areas, but we've always touted ourselves as a business market, at least when we're going out and selling it to airlines. And that's been worked well for us historically. Hasn't so much in the pandemic, because now we're trying to move it off and say, well, there are leisure things to do here. But typically at the airport, 65% of our traffic is business versus 35% leisure. So we'll continue to work to get additional cities and beyond what we've already done with Southwest and with Silver, and to continue to expand those nonstop destinations. With that, I wanted to move into Cerulean Aviation. So this is our FBO in Cargo, and this is wholly owned by the Greenville-Spartanburg Airport District. So we actually own and operate it with our own staff. We just gave it a different name. And so we started FBO operations on January 1st of 2017. And this is really the gateway for general aviation and corporate aviation. So folks that are flying in and out in those corporate jets and general aviation aircraft. But we also provide all of the fueling for the airlines, for cargo flights, for, and like I said, for corporate and general aviation too. And so we had constructed a new 150,000 gallon Jet A fuel tanks that we had when we opened up the FBO. We actually have taken our fuel business from just under 10 million gallons a year to just a little over 20 million gallons a year. And so based on some of the things that we currently have going on with cargo, we're in the process of expanding that 150,000 gallon fuel farm to a 300,000 gallon fuel farm. And that's planned for next year to be complete in 2022. We've also done a bunch of hangar construction. So we've completed construction on 50,000 square feet of new hangar space in 2019. And we're also currently doing some site prep work for additional hangars here at the airport. So we're still continuing to grow this side of our business. It has not been impacted by COVID and by the pandemic. In fact, it's actually impacted us in a positive way by growing this side of one of the lines of business that we operate here at the airport. So a lot of folks ask, Cerulean Aviation, how did you come up with that name? And so Cerulean is actually a crayon in the Crayola crayon box. I think it was added in 1994. So it's a hue of blue, and it's a nod to the Blue Ridge Mountains that you see on approach and departure from the airport. So that's how we actually came up with the name. And if you remember that movie, I think it has Meryl Streep, Devils Wear Prada. She actually talks about the cerulean sweater that Anne Hathaway is wearing. And she says, you know, it's not blue, it's cerulean, and makes fun of her for not understanding what color that is. So the cerulean color is out there in various forms. And we like to see it in the Crayola crayon box. They actually were retiring some crayons a few years ago. We had a couple sleepless nights thinking, oh goodness, they may retire that color after we had just added it. Luckily, it's still there today. It's in the 64 color box, and hopefully it'll remain there for some time to come. So Cerulean Aviation, you know, does the FBOs, but they also do cargo too. And so this is the cargo side. And so we actually have scheduled 747-400 freighter service to Hahn, Germany, just outside of Frankfurt. That began back in 2016. So we had 2 weekly flights at that time. We then grew that to 3 weekly flights in 2017, and then went to daily flights in 2018. And we're currently doing sometimes double daily flights with them. So this has been an extremely fruitful venture for the airport. We're serving not only the upstate region here. So typically for passengers, you know, if you draw about 90 minutes out to 2 hour drive time around the airport, that's really your catchment area for passengers. But for cargo, it's a lot larger. So if you draw a circle around the airport, you can go up to about an 8 to 12 hour drive. And that's where we're actually servicing cargo for. So it's not just upstate cargo. It's going down into Florida, up into, I'm going to say the southern Midwest region, over into Alabama, Mississippi area. So this, again, has been done extremely well for us. So based on that success, we were running out of room. So we actually constructed a new 110,000 square foot cargo facility. So that's what you see in the pictures here. You can actually see those mountains in the background. So that's, again, that's where we came up with that Cerulean name. And we also, for this warehouse, constructed a 17-acre cargo apron. That can actually handle 3 747 aircraft simultaneously. A lot of folks have said, they make comments or ask questions related to that, saying, well, how often do you typically have 3 of them on the ground at any one time? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but we actually are in need of having to double the size of this apron based on the success that we've had in this business. So this new facility opened up on September 9th of 2019. And here's another view of it, so you can see it from the other side. And you can see all the dock doors there. So it's a cross dock facility. Cargo comes in on the airplanes, goes through the facility, gets broken down and put on the trucks, and then back out onto I-85, I-26, and goes throughout the country to wherever the final destination is. But you can see, if you look behind the 747 that's in that picture, you can actually see some earthwork being done back there. So we're doing all of the site work to prepare for that apron expansion. And then if you look at the left side of that picture too, at the end of the building there, we actually have room to add another 50,000 square feet to this facility. And that's something that we're probably going to move forward. We're going to be taking that to the Airport Commission for consideration at our next meeting in May. And so hopefully that'll move forward in 2022 so we can continue to grow this business here at GSP. This is some of our special cargo. I think I've had this in one of my previous presentations last fall, but I just wanted to bring it up again. So it's not just all packages and hardware and parts. We do special cargo also. So we hosted the World Equestrian Games up in Tryon, North Carolina in 2018. And so we actually set a world record. We had over 550 horses that were flown in from around the world to participate in those equestrian games. So this was something that was exciting and a little bit unique for us. But we do have the ability to handle any type of cargo in and out of GSP. So this just kind of represents or demonstrates our ability to handle pretty much anything. So in 2020, we did set an all-time cargo record. So our cargo activity increased 12% during that year, during last year. And you can see we did a little over 65,000 tons of cargo. And you can see on the chart there over the last decade, our cargo business has really just taken off. For 2020, we were ranked the 20th busiest cargo airport in the US. And you can see our annual trade value for the materials that were coming in and out of the airport. Those were estimated to be valued at $4.37 billion. So most of that is automotive parts, vehicles, and medical equipment. But I'll show you here in a second some of the other things that are coming in and out of the airport, which I always find interesting. So as I mentioned, we're out of space, and we need to add that 50,000 square foot addition onto the building, as well as double the apron size. And you can see here, this was taken a couple weeks ago. British Airways, Magma, TUI, we're all on the ground there on the right-hand side picture simultaneously. There's actually a 4th TUI aircraft, which is that light blue one at the far end that's double parked behind it. So we actually had 4 wide-body aircraft on here at one time. In the bottom left-hand corner is Moss Air. So they are flying to Mexico City and Quito, Mexico. And so, they're operating in and out of the airport also, which has been great. We just started that partnership with them approximately 3 or 4 months ago, and it's been doing extremely well. But you can see we're doing a little over 30 weekly wide body flights. Then we do what we call hot shot flights too. So that's things that are being flown in on smaller aircraft. Typically, those are things that need to arrive in order to keep a production line open, as an example. It has to arrive just in time. If they're short a certain widget or part, and it's going to shut that production line in, they'll fly that in to the airport and make sure it gets to where it needs to go. So just taking a look at air cargo activity, comparing the last 3 years. So you can see, 2020 was a busy year compared to 2019. So 2019 there is in the blue, 2020 is in the orange color, and you can see the cargo activity was off the chart. So even despite the pandemic, we were doing extremely well. And then you can see here, we've started off the year strong. We don't have our March cargo numbers yet, but January, February were off the chart just in terms of what we've done historically. So we expect that to continue throughout the year. And, as folks continue to discover GSP as an alternate to other cargo airports or cargo hubs throughout the United States, we hear typically from folks that, man, is it always like this? Because we don't get that type of service when we go to Miami. We don't get that type of service that we're receiving when we go to Atlanta. It's nothing against those airports, but we are a smaller facility. We have an 11,000-foot runway that can handle any size aircraft that's flying around the world today. So we have the ability to handle them. And, instead of U.S. Customs, taking, 12 to 18 hours to clear your cargo that's on your airplanes, ours is typically cleared within 60 minutes, 45 minutes. You can have an entire 747 cleared. So that time is money, and the sooner that freight gets put on trucks and out to its final destination, the better. So they're finding us as a good alternative to some of those more congested airports. So it's always interesting just to see, who's our top trading partner countries here at GSP. So Germany, and that's really attributed a lot to BMW, but it's only 43%. Then you can see Mexico is another 32%. And then it gets interesting after that. You got Malaysia, Hungary, Canada, the Czech Republic, Romania, Italy, France, that are also, that make up, where folks shipping from in between GSP and those countries. So I always like to take a look at this and see how it changes from month to month. But this is the 2020 numbers as to, what the freight in and out of GSP, where it was coming from or going to. And you can see with this graph here, we do import a lot more than we export. So if you do have something that you need to export, encourage your freight forwarder to send it through GSP. We would be happy to have that dialogue with you and figure out how we can partner on that if you are sending things out, as well as on the imports too. But ideally, we'd like to see this be a little bit more balanced, but we do a lot more imports than exports currently here at the airport. So for exported material, this is always interesting. So what's actually leaving the airport to go out of the United States to other countries? So chemical compounds represents 22%, followed by medical instruments, motor vehicle parts. And then it's interesting, they had mirrors, including rear view mirrors that were shipping out. And then civilian aircraft parts is on there, 4.7%, printed circuit boards, 4%, and so on. So a lot of different things. I think a lot of folks are always surprised when they see this, to see actually what's traveling in and out of the airport, or actually in this case, out of the airport. And this is what's coming into the airport. Motor vehicle parts is the largest with 31%. And then you can see on there medical instruments, X-ray equipment. So a lot of MRI equipment from a company here that has a presence here in the upstate comes through GSP. So if you're getting MRI equipment for a medical facility, chances are if it's anywhere on the East Coast of the US, it probably came in from GSP from Europe. So they ship almost all of that through our airport. Next, I just wanted to give a quick update on our master plan and what's on tap for the future here for the airport. So here's some of our future aviation development. We'll take a look at that. So our airport master plan was updated and approved by the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in February of 2020. So you can see there the long runway, that's our 11,000-foot runway that we have here at the airport. Everything that's in yellow are existing facilities that we have. And then everything you see in blue are future facilities. So you can see over the next 20 years, our master planning process, we take a look at 0 to 5 years, and then 6 to 10, and then 11 to 20. So we have a tremendous amount of growth that we're anticipating over the next 2 decades. And you can see there is a future runway that's on here that is planned. So typically a couple different things would necessitate the need for another runway. Typically, you would have to get to 60% of your annual service volume, which is the capacity of the existing runway. We're a little ways away from that. We have a lot of capacity available to us. We're only at 25% of what the current runway can handle aircraft-wise. But it could be another triggering event. So it could be something like, FedEx or UPS wants to open up a regional hub and they require that we have 2 runways for redundancy purposes. Could be an aircraft manufacturer that's looking to relocate to town. It could be a lot of different things that would necessitate that need. Nevertheless, we have it on there. We plan for it. We protect the airspace for it. So that way, if and when we get to that point at some point in the future and we need that runway, all we have to do is construct it. So we recently opened up a brand new fire station back in November of 2020. This replaced our old fire station, which was original to the airport. The original fire station, if you look on that left-hand picture over by the air traffic control tower, sat at the base of the tower. So this is the brand new facility. Again, just opened up a few months ago. And we do provide not only aircraft rescue firefighting services for the airfield, but we also have our own structural firefighting equipment too. So we have our own full-time fire department, 24/7, 365 days a year, and they protect the airport campus along with our police department. We have 3,700 acres, so we are essentially a small city. And so we have our own fire district. And, if you get on God forbid, but if you did get into an accident along I-85, State Route 14, 101, our structural firefighting equipment will actually respond to that along with our police department. Those are in our public safety district. So it's not just all airport stuff that we respond to. There are other roadways and that are inside that firefighting district. This is coming off of I-85 on Aviation Parkway. On the left-hand slide there, you'll see in the picture we have a roundabout. So that's been constructed. So if you haven't been out to the airport recently, as you're coming in on that entrance road, you'll see that roundabout. And off to the right-hand side, you'll see a brand new economy lot. They're just finishing that up. It's 1,500 parking spaces. If you remember, prior to the pandemic, flying, sometimes it was difficult to find a parking space. So we were planning for the future at that time, started this project prior to the pandemic, went ahead and kept it going since it was already under construction when the pandemic hit. Hopefully we'll have a need for this to open this up, hopefully in 2022. And then we also constructed a brand new 500 space employee parking lot. So that's over here on the left-hand side of this slide. And you can see where that economy lot C, that 1,500 spaces is the, I'm gonna say lime green color on the bottom right-hand corner where it says coming soon. So that's where that lot is gonna be located. So you'll come in off of Aviation Parkway, hit the roundabout, and then that will get you to Economy Lot C. There's also a connecting road that goes to Economy Lot B, so those will actually be tied together. And we'll expand our Economy Lot availability for parking for travelers that are more price sensitive, looking for that lower price point when they're flying in and out of the airport. And then we're also working, I'm going to talk about Parking Garage C, but you can see we have Garage A, we have the Daniels Fountain, and then we have Garage B. Over here, really one of the reasons we were building, the impetus for that 1,500 space Economy Lot C was that we need to build a third parking garage. And so we had to, that surface lot that's been known historically as our daily lot needed to go away so that we could start construction on that new economy lot. And I'll talk about that project here in just a second. So one of the other exciting projects we've been working on, we issued an RFP back in early February for an on-site terminal building hotel. And you can see where that would be located. So you have your ticket counters here at the front of the terminal building, Concourse A off to the left, Concourse B on the right-hand side. So right off and adjacent to Concourse B is that future terminal building site. Terminal building hotel site. And this is just something that we had put together as staff as to what that hotel could look like. And so we called it the Landside Hotel. We probably needed to be a little more creative on a name, but that's the best we came up with at the time. And we visited several other airports that had hotel facilities directly adjacent to the terminal building. So we got a little inspiration up at JFK from the TWA Hotel. They actually had a rooftop pool and bar area that overlooked the airfield. And so we put that into the rendering here just to, see what that would see what that would look like. We did receive proposals for this project. We have on-site interviews next week. And so this will be something that we'll be taking to the Airport Commission for consideration at our next upcoming meeting here in May. So hopefully you'll see a hotel. It has to be a nationally branded hotel operator. So it has to be a Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, IHG, something that's commonly known to business travelers. But some of the, and looking at some of the renderings and that we did receive, I think that, I don't think it's too far-fetched that there is a possibility that you could see something similar to this Landside Hotel with that future, with having a pool in the future on top of that facility, as well as maybe a bar and a restaurant. So it's not, we're always looking at unique passenger guest amenities that we can provide that sets us apart from, neighboring airports. And we think that this is something that will be unique for the airport, and also provide that customer convenience that folks sometimes want if they have an early morning departure, or God forbid that their flight get canceled. That never happens at GSP, but if it were to get canceled or delayed and they couldn't make it to their final destination, they don't have to go very far to find a room. And then, as I had mentioned, parking garage C, just rolling into that. We were running out of space prior to the pandemic, and we were also having some challenges with our rental cars too. So as the airport continued to grow and we got up to that 2.61 million passengers in 2019, there was a demand for additional rental car facilities too. And so we looked at, what's the best option to handle both parking as well as the rental car facilities. So Parking Garage C handles both of those. 750 spaces of public parking, 700 spaces for rental cars to be what we call ready return spaces. It's where you would pick your car up or where you would drop it off, when you're at the end of your trip. And then we also had new rental cars customer service facility. That's the glass area at the front of the building there. So that's where you would the rental car counters would be to do your transactions at. So the nice thing about this facility is we can flex it up and down. So if there is a need for additional rental cars, just planning for the future, if we needed more ready return spaces beyond that 750, we can actually go floor by floor and convert those into from public parking over to the rental car spaces. So we have the ability to do that. So this project was put on hold. We were getting ready to break ground on it pre-pandemic. I do anticipate that it's about a 2-year build out to construct this facility. So this was something that staff will be bringing back to the Airport Commission sometime in 2022, 2023. Since it does have a 2-year lead time, we just have to forecast, when is the right time to break ground on it. It's about a $75 million project, so it's not cheap. The last thing we want to do is pull the trigger too early and have a facility that's not being fully utilized. But at the same time, we also don't want to pull the trigger too late on it. If we do that, then we could be back into parking challenges again, as well as be tight on rental car facilities, which we were pre-pandemic. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is Airports Council International, ACI. They come out, they do surveys of our passengers and do surveys of passengers around the world. And so they have an Airport Service Quality Award. And GSP was very humbled and proud to be selected as the winner in 2020. We found this out last month. So we were named the best airport in North America in the 2 to 5 million passenger category. We have all of you to thank for that, because you guys are the ones that are traveling through the airport that fill out those surveys. And you can see here just the GSP average, looking at our customer service scores, they're all in that 90 90 percentile. And you can see what the global average is. You know, typically we're above that. We're always above the North American average. And you can see there, you know, we do have tough competition with our peer group. So, you know, we're hoping we've gotten this award. We're hoping to retain that for 2021. So if there's ever anything we can do to improve, you know, we're always open to suggestions, comments here at the airport district. You know, please let us know if sometimes we don't know. Something is an inconvenience or something isn't going the way it maybe should, unless somebody shares that information with us. So if you do have you shouldn't, but if you do have a bad experience here for whatever reason, let us know, because that allows us to correct it and, you know, hopefully retain high airport service quality scores here at the airport, because we want to be the airport of choice for the upstate and Western Carolina regions. So with that, that's all I have presentation wise, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. I was worried that you were not going to share your great accolades. I know you guys are very humble, but congratulations on the award. That is definitely well deserved, and y'all are such an important asset for the upstate.
Thanks so much, Dean. I appreciate that.
So we have a couple of quick questions. One is the blockade or block happened at the Suez Canal? Are you seeing any impact from that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and we have. I actually had the Leadership Greer group out here a couple weeks ago, or actually just last week. They were out here to do a presentation very similar to this, as well as get a tour of our cargo facility. And so we had set it up and scheduled it around one of those 747 aircraft that were going to be coming in from Hahn, Germany. So we were all set up, ready to go. We were going to, you know, tour the airplane and actually see the cargo operation up close and personal. Unfortunately, a lot of Europe, it does get crude oil from the Middle East that comes through that Suez Canal. So and it goes to various countries and various refineries. But that airplane was actually delayed because there was Jet A fuel available at the airport in the capacity that was needed to get across the Atlantic Ocean. So it delayed the aircraft about 4, 5, 6 hours. And so they actually missed it. So there has been a fuel crunch in Europe due to the Suez Canal. We do know that also that some of the folks that would typically use those ships to deliver cargo and different items are now using, you know, for those just-in-time deliveries. You know, they're now having to fly things between Europe and the U.S. So we have seen an uptick in business on that. But, you know, I never thought about the fuel issue. So that was actually really surprising to me, caught me off guard a little bit as to, you know, why is the aircraft delayed, you know, that much, 4 to 6 hours? And it was just because of fuel deliveries were being impacted across that region.
Okay, and then one last question, and I love it from our good friend Sheridan Spartanburg with Spats. You know, there's been talk very recently about high-speed rail, and have you all been part of discussions about that in the future to be a hub or be the location for the upstate?
We do know that there's a couple proposals that are out there. I did see one, you know, from Charlotte to Atlanta that had a stop near GSP or at GSP. And our staff, our team is continuing to have, you know, ongoing dialogue as that process continues. You know, those are very, in my opinion, and based on what I know of it, those are very preliminary discussions that are currently going on. Has there been any in-depth discussions? The answer to that is no. But we know that there are proposals out there. We're continuing to watch those, and you know, there's pros and cons. You know, obviously for the airport for high-speed rail. But we'll continue to watch those and work with the community as those proposals move forward.
Well, I think if I've learned anything in the years I've worked with you and with Dave and your team, you guys are very proactive. And so you know, anytime there's any opportunities or things happening, you guys are not going to sit back and wait for it to happen to you. You proactively are making sure that you're engaged in that. So whether it be the high-speed rail or things, you know, just want to thank and commend you for the great work you guys are doing. You know, I think this for all industries, but most especially for ones in your realm. And I think you guys have maybe didn't see it coming, certainly, but you saw the need for diversifying your portfolio of things that you receive revenue from. And I think the fact that you had done that with the cargo over the last 3 to 5 years really set you up where the negative impact was not what it could have been and had.
No, and that's a great point, Dean. So, you know, a lot of airports rely solely on passenger traffic. Here at GSP, we actually kind of have a four-legged stool. So we have passenger traffic, we got cargo, we have the FBO, and then we have our land development program. So passenger traffic, you know, from a budgeting standpoint, is approximately 75% of our total revenue. The other 25% comes from cargo, FBO, and land development. So we have a very diversified revenue stream in comparison to other airports. And that's really, you know, to your point, that set us up well for the pandemic. Obviously, we didn't want that to occur. But, you know, when those types of things do occur, you know, in the economy, you know, it set us up well to be able to weather that better than some of our friends at other airports.
Well, Scott, thank you again for your presentation. We will look forward to hearing back from you again in the fall, and hopefully that we'll keep seeing the numbers increasing, so it'll be an even rosier outlook in another few months.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate the ability or the opportunity to get the information out and give an update on GSP.
Great, thank you, Scott. And Erica, if you haven't already, if you would put the overview that Scott wrote for our e-newsletter last week in the chat, people can read that as well. It gives a lot of the information that he presented today. So with that, Justine, I'm going to turn it over to our county updates.
All righty. Hi, everyone. I apologize if I break up. My connection is not that great today. We are going to hear from Kelly Barnhart about Artisphere, always a fun Mother's Day weekend for our Greenville County update. Thanks for being with us, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Again, I'm Kelly Barnhart. I'm the communications strategist for Artisphere. And as Justine said, we are so excited to be back on South Main Street Mother's Day weekend for Artisphere presented by TD Bank, May 7th through 9th. This year will be safe, small, and socially distanced. There are some things that are the same and some that are different. As always, you can expect the exciting level of energy and creativity, all set against the backdrop of our vibrant downtown. So we will have 105 artists on our artist row, showcasing a variety of mediums from ceramics to 2D and 3D mixed media, sculpture, jewelry, wood, glass. There's a little something for everyone. And some of the programming that you can look forward to, we have new this year, Wells Fargo's Brushing Up series. So each day of the festival, we'll have a different artist doing live painting. And we have demo row with a glass blower and metal worker. We have our Sphinx Kid Sphere, where we'll have some grab and go crafts and drum percussion, which is always fun for kids of all ages, and our Clemson STEAM exhibit as well. So that's just some of the fun programming that you can look forward to. As for what's different this year, as a result of adhering to the city and state guidelines for reduced capacity, the festival will be timed, ticketed, and gated. So patrons are encouraged to sign up online at artisphere.org for a 2.5-hour time slot. So what that means is you will go to Artisphere's website and you will buy a ticket for $5. Let's say you pick Friday, May 7th from 12 to 2:30. That means that is your time slot to go and peruse the festival site. At 2:30, we'll clear the festival site, wipe down all high touch surfaces, and then at 3 o'clock, the next round will come through. If you want to come through for multiple rounds, we would love that. You will just need to buy additional tickets. That $5 will be returned to you in the form of a gift certificate to be used on Artist Row, and any unused gift certificates will be put back towards the arts in Greenville. So masks are required, and per the city's ordinance for large gatherings, we will have hand washing and sanitizing stations throughout the festival. This year, we don't have any food on the festival site. We do have non-alcoholic beverages available, but we are encouraging everyone to patronize the city's great restaurants downtown and along South Main Street on the festival site. There's also baseball coming back that weekend, so there is a lot happening in downtown Greenville. So we encourage you to make a plan and join us. So go to artistsphere.org and secure your tickets, and we can't wait to see you.
Thank you so much. It's always one of my favorites, so I'm so glad that you figured out how to do it this year.
Thank you. We're so excited. We have been putting our heads together for many months, so we're glad to be able to return.
Cool. Okay, and then lastly, we will hear from Greenwood's Katie Davenport with Greenwood Promise. Thanks for being with us, Katie.
Thank you, Justine. So I'm Katie Davenport. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwood Promise. I'm not sure how much I can share in the short amount of time. I always get kind of a panic whenever they say, oh, you have a few minutes to share about the Greenwood Promise. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can go to our website and get all of my contact information and a lot of other information about the Greenwood Promise. We are Greenwood County's Promise program. We are a tuition assistance program in Greenwood County. We have been serving our students since 2017. Currently, we are operating in our phase 1. We started fundraising back in 2015 underneath the Foundation for Greater Greenwood under the Partnership Alliance. So that's where we started, and we are now our own separate entity, a 501c3. We serve our students by paying the last dollar of their tuition at Piedmont Technical College, which is here in Greenwood, or another technical college in South Carolina if Piedmont Tech doesn't have something that they want to study. And we are currently in our planning phase for our capital campaign for our phase 2, which will start funding our students in the last 2 years of a 4-year degree, starting with Lander University here in Greenwood, and then branching out to other public universities in South Carolina if Lander doesn't have something. And we're going to do all that based on the needs of Greenwood County, because we were formed as part of the strategic plan to increase our workforce that is skilled and trained here in Greenwood. We have awarded almost $300,000 in scholarships to our students, and we have almost 400 students that have been funded by that. And our whole goal of the Greenwood Promise is to be able to take that financial burden off of our students when they're planning to go to college. But it also encourages, because we are residency based, it encourages folks to move into Greenwood County and to stay and live. They have to be here from kindergarten all the way through high school graduation to receive funding from us. So part of that is to attract people to Greenwood County for them to stay and raise their families, and hopefully their kids to stay and do the same thing. So we've seen a big increase in our enrollment of our post-secondary students going to tech in Greenwood County. We have surpassed South Carolina state average of post-secondary enrollment for the first time since the Promise started. We've seen an increase in our minority enrollment in post-secondary. So a lot of great things that are going on. And that is just a tiny, tiny snippet of what the Promise does and what we have going on. So again, if you have any questions, I could go on for a long time. If anybody's ever heard me do like a full presentation, they're like, oh God, how much more information can she give us? But there's a lot, and there are a lot of details and a lot of specifics and a lot of great things that are going on with the Promise. So I encourage you to check out our website and to get in touch with me if you have questions. We actually have some folks from the Chamber of Commerce in Greenville, who are going to be visiting with us in Greenwood next week to discuss the Promise program. So thank you.
Wonderful. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Completing that college education, so important. Okay, we just have a couple more announcements before we let everybody go. We'll put in the chat. There is the first Reconnect that is being hosted tomorrow morning, our first in-person small get together. And Erica's going to put the link in the chat, I believe. And then next week we have our Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem. I think I might have frozen, so if I did, I apologize. Senator Tim Scott's policy advisor, Kunal Parikh, will be speaking about legislative updates for small businesses and what to expect in the current administration. And then Sneak Peek is featuring a mayor's panel, our own Mayor Terrence Roberts from Anderson, Brandon Smith from Greenwood, and then Brandy Amadon from Travelers Rest. I think that's it for us, Mayor Roberts.
Okay, thank you, Justine. Thank you, everybody. That was a very fast hour and a lot of good information. Thanks again to Scott and Katie and Kelly for updating us on especially the Greenville event and what's going on in Greenwood. I hope everybody has a good weekend and have a good Friday. And we'll see you at the next TATT chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.